Okay, video 11 of social isolation and spreadsheets with Ms. Lamb. We are moving into one of our final steps in this stage of the project before moving into another exciting stage. And that is if we scroll over to column Q, we will see that gender of the user is indicated by a number, so that 0 is unknown, the user did not specify their gender. 1 is male and 2 is female. But I think it'll be more helpful if we could see those genders as words instead of as numbers, which we might forget. And to do that, we're going to use a formula, an if formula. What an if formula does is it allows us to give Google Sheets a condition, and then it allows it to check to see if that condition is true. And if it's true, then it's going to do something. Now, if that sounded a little complicated, let's put it into practice, and we're going to see. So I'm coming here into column R, and I'm going to type equals because every single formula starts with an equals. And then I'm going to start to type if. Now, what I actually notice here is that I really want to use the ifs with an S at the end formula because we have a couple of options, right? We want to say if it's 0, say unknown, if it's 1, say that it's male, and if it's 2, say that it's female. So I'm going to use if, and then I open my parentheses. I click on my cell because this is the cell that I'm constantly going to be checking. So I'm saying if Q2 is equal to 0, right? That's my condition. My condition is if Q2 is equal to 0. Now, if it's true, if Q2 is actually equal to 0, then we want it to write unknown. But here's the secret about Google Sheets, and it actually works the same thing in any kind of coding that you might do, and that is you need to open quotation marks because this is what's considered a string. It's a group of words, and when Google Sheets deals with text as opposed to numbers, it needs to have that text between quotation marks in a formula. And so I say, if it's Q2, comma, then write unknown, and then I put, unknown. Now I put another comma and I'm moving on to condition 2. Condition 2 is if Q2 is equal to 1. If Q2 is equal to 1, I put my comma because what I wanted to do now is I wanted to say male. I put another comma and I put my third condition, which is if Q2 is equal to 2, then I want it to say female. So again, and then I close my quotation and I close my parentheses. Now, before I close out this formula, I want to explain it once again. We're starting with this if formula. The reason that it has a plural S is because we're working with multiple conditions. With each condition, we are checking if our cell, in this case Q2, is equal to a specific value. And so what we're telling Google Sheets to do now is to check, to say, is Q2 equal to 0? If yes, write unknown. And because we're asking it to write words and not numbers, we need to put those words between quotation marks. Then we're going on to say, is Q2 equal to 1? If yes, then write male. And finally, is Q2 equal to 2? If yes, write female. And so what my Google Sheets is going to do is it's going to check Q2 for each of these 3 conditions. When one of them is true, it will put in that value. And again, if you notice, in between each element of my formula, I have a comma to let Google Sheets know that I finished with one part and I'm ready to move on the other. And my entire calculation is enclosed in parentheses. So now I'm going to press enter. And look, it worked. It's a 1 and it's male. Now, a repetition of the trick we learned last time to copy this down to the entire sheet. I have the little blue box in the corner. I move my mouse over it and it turns into this cross and I double click. Now, please keep in mind, once again, because this is a large spreadsheet, it may take a couple of minutes, well, really more like a couple of seconds, but maybe even up to a minute. I can actually see that it's working up here. It hasn't quite finished. This bar needs to fill, but for most of the ones up here that I'm looking for, boom, I have it all filled in. And now we're going to do the same thing that we've done so many other times until now. And we are going to copy our column R, and then we're going to paste it as values, edit, paste special, paste values only. I double check to make sure that there's no longer a formula in here, which there is not. I'm going to now call this one gender and get rid of this one. And now I can easily tell the genders of all of my writers. Next time, we'll talk about actually sorting that information so we can group like items together. See you then.